Hey y'all, welcome back to the Women Be Healed podcast. I'm your host, Rashonda Powell. And if you're new here, this podcast is all about healing, forgiveness, community, all that stuff by leaning on God. And if you have been listening lately, y'all will probably know that healing on this podcast is a variety of different things, a variety of different levels. So when people think of healing, sometimes you automatically come to the assumption that they're talking about healing from sickness or injury in their body, but healing occurs on every aspect, on every level. Like whatever needs resurrection, that's what healing is. And this can be mind, this can be body, spirit, all those things. It could be mindsets, healing of different eating patterns and perspectives, the way you speak, all of those can be healed. But today we have Saniyah Joseph here, and Saniyah was one of the panelists on the Women's Conference back in September, right? She is a social media influencer. She is founder of Self Care Bay on Instagram, and I think you got a Facebook too, right, Saniyah? You got a Facebook?
Uh, I do.
You do? Okay. But more recently, one of her titles that she has really picked up, and I say it's her title, but she's really been flowing with it lately, a sister of faith, right? So first off, I'm gonna just let her introduce herself and tell y'all how, as of late, she went from promoting self-care, which she still does, but she's picked up that title now into transition into a space where she has let her faith kind of lead her and let her faith arise in her and lead her into a journey of evangelism and bringing other sisters along for the ride. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, so like she said, my name is Saniyah Joseph. I'm 20 years old and I am a sophomore in college. I am the founder of Sisters of Faith, and the vision for Sisters of Faith, it was put in my heart by God. More so to just like create the community that I've always wanted, because starting off, that journey with Christ, it can get lonely. Your friends start slacking off, and you might not be able to relate to anybody anymore. So
Hmm.
I created that community, basically for my desire to have sisters. And I also am a self care influencer on Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I have Facebook for Sisters of Faith.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, I have Instagram and TikTok, and up there I just focus on self care and beauty, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. So I'm gonna actually link her group me in the description somewhere so y'all can have the direct link to her community. Um, so I'm gonna get started. So today we are speaking about abstinence and remaining abstinence. And I feel like with remaining abstinent is so much more than that. It's moving in obedience, moving out of disobedience, and kind of just really, tuning your relationship with God in the single aspect when you're not married and you're just, trying to find your flow. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, Sanaya. So first of all, I didn't give you this question, but I'm gonna just bring it up. Like
Oh,
your relationship status. I want to know that so we can jump into everything else.
my relationship status, like, what you
Like
mean?
so we say remaining abstinent, right?
Uh-huh.
So you're remaining abstinent
Mhm.
in a relationship. Some people are abstinent because they don't have no man, but you got a man, right?
Yes, I
So
do.
I guess I wanted to basically establish that ground because they have like different levels. It's different levels of remaining abstinent. So you can be single and abstinent, or you can be actually in a relationship and abstinent. And I feel like it's two
Mhm.
totally different struggles. Like both of them are struggles or challenges. I'm not going to say struggles, but both of them are challenges. But remaining abstinent in a relationship,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
really challenging, I feel like.
Yes, it is very challenging. I do have a boyfriend. I've been with my partner for almost 5 years. Um, and we did make the decision about a year ago to abstain from sex and wait till marriage. So that's basically like where we stand now.
Hmm.
We're in a pretty good headspace with it, but we are, of course, every day having to fight our flesh and get on one accord and, just align ourselves with what with God has planned for us.
Right. Okay. So my
Mhm.
first question is, what moved you to be, or what moved you to the decision to become abstinent?
So it's funny, I actually got convicted on TikTok. My
Oh.
timeline consists of like Christian TikTokers and everything. And so I just kept seeing videos of them basically telling me or telling about sex before marriage and telling me that I was living in sin. And I honestly did not want to believe that at first. So
Mm-hmm.
I did not go in my Bible. I was like, because I'm not gonna be the one wrong. I'm like, I'm not about to look it up. But I kept getting convicted and I kept seeing the videos. And
Mm-hmm.
it just got to a point where I was like, let me look this up because I feel like I'm distant from God and this might be the reason that I am. So I
Mm-hmm.
looked it up and sure enough, they told me I was fornicating. I was in sexual
Yeah.
sin, having sex before marriage. I'm like, Lord, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
from there, that conviction just grew and I just decided, I don't want any parts of that because that's, dividing, putting a divide in between me and God's relationship.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Mhm.
funny because you said you was basically running from the conviction. Like he'll continue to show you like you wrong subtly
Yes.
sometimes, but then when he really calling you, he just keep putting it in your face. That is funny.
Right.
But
Yeah.
okay, so from your decision, right, to become abstinent, and now that you are, what, or I should say, have you seen a difference in your relationship with God versus
Mhm.
when you were not abstaining? I'm gonna say that.
Right. I have absolutely seen a difference in my life now that I'm abstaining. One big thing being my relationship with God. It
Mm-hmm.
just grew tremendously. It was like once I stopped fornicating, the blinders were just taken off of my eyes. And my life just went up from there. My reverence for God increased, my discernment went up. I gained knowledge in so many different areas spiritually, and I'm still like daily gaining that knowledge. And a lot of things just turned around for me. So my life absolutely just changed once I made that decision.
Yeah, that's good because I feel like
Mhm.
just like speaking back to me, I feel like we were talking about this in one of your when you were speaking about it in one of your virtual events
Mhm.
where I was saying I was one of the people that I didn't abstain from sex when I was married. I have two babies out of wedlock.
Mhm.
But part of my story is funny because I be joking about it in my head, but I don't ever tell my husband. But he already knows.
Mhm.
There was a point in my life. I've always been with God, but it's always been an on off and on relationship. You know how you be with a boyfriend, you just be off and on. That was
Right.
me in my relationship with God. But he's always been heavy, like you know how you chased after God. God been chasing me for
Yeah. Yeah.
a while. And it was a space where I had just got pregnant with my first daughter, Harmony, right?
Mhm.
And she, I think I couldn't have been more than 3 months pregnant, but I was
Mhm.
convicted so heavy of having sex, not married, that I
Mhm.
tried to leave my husband.
What?
Like, yeah, well, my boyfriend at the time. And it
Uh-huh.
wasn't leave in a space where I want to break up with you. It was a leave in a space like I'm not finna be living with you no more. I'm not supposed to be doing this. But it was in a way like,
Right.
and I was trying to tell him like I just don't feel right. But I could
Mhm.
never tell him the full story because I didn't know how to say it. I didn't
Right.
know what to tell him or in what capacity. So I feel like learning how to tell your partner your values and how you are committed with God is such an important part and so necessary in just
Mhm.
voicing how you rock with God or how you are in
Mhm.
God. And I'm gonna just wrap this story up because my husband won't have it. He was not have that. No, he's like, I don't know where you think you're going. But I still never told him fully what it was, but it was just me. I was feeling so convicted in that moment. And everybody think I'm panicking because I'm pregnant, but I'm like panicking because I really felt convicted. Like I'm about to have a baby out of wedlock. I was doing all this,
Mhm.
and nobody really stood the weight that God had on me in that
Mhm.
moment. but also there's a space where you just know that somebody is for you. And even though I still wasn't in the capacity of, obeying God fully in that moment, I already knew that Roy was my husband. So I didn't go nowhere. But at the same time, he already knew where I stood. Like, I'm not finna be in here unmarried for long. So if you don't have the intention on marrying me, then I'm out of
Right.
here. And
Right.
I got the ring girl back. um, but I feel like it's so important for you to just have the foundation of who you are in Christ and actually voicing your conviction to your partner. That is such a big move, and it's such a bold move in Christ, because it's like, I don't care about anything else. I'm going to be obedient to God. And it's like, you're not idolizing any of that anymore, because it can be such an idol, sex,
Yeah.
and your partner can become an idol and things like that. So I'm glad that you are taking that leap. And I feel like this conversation is so important, because a lot of people were like me. They didn't know how to say it. They don't,
Hmm.
they may feel the weight, but it's just like, how do I even do it? Or where do I
Right.
start? And things
Right.
like that. So with that being said, I want to ask you, like, how did you bring your conviction to your partner, and how did he respond?
Okay, so from what I can remember, I simply told him that I felt convicted and that we were dishonoring God, because after I, did my research, I was like, yeah, we couldn't have,
Yeah.
we ain't making good decisions. So he respected my choice, but he didn't understand, nor did he have the same conviction as me.
Hmm.
So this was pretty difficult because even though we weren't doing the act, he would still do things or say things that was leading me in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And that's because I don't think he understood at the time how to protect my purity. Like, okay, it's
Hmm.
one thing to stop doing it, but you also have to protect each other's purity.
Yeah.
Um, so this kind of came with deep hurt because I felt like, he don't get it. He gonna keep saying this stuff and he gonna
Yeah.
keep, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that went on for a while. I could see how he probably thought I was like curving him because every time he would say something, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I was like, no,
Yeah.
sir, I'm not feeling that. And I think that was something because it's like, dang, we can't even spice it up in our relationship. We
Yeah.
can't even do this anymore or whatever. And I felt bad because I'm like, no, like, it don't gotta be like that. I'm not trying to push you away or anything. I'm just trying to be obedient to God. And
Yeah.
I have to protect your purity. I'm not gonna keep feeding into it and making it seem like it's okay or,
Yes.
or we can talk about it but not do it. It don't make sense to do that. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I wasn't budging because I started seeking God for myself and reading the word. But looking back, I was I actually sometimes I can't remember things as vividly. So
Hmm.
I'm glad we had messages. I went back last night and I looked at them.
Really?
And yes, I was like, oh my goodness, we have come so far. But looking back, I give him grace because he genuinely didn't know or understand the severity of sexual sin or
Hmm.
the reason why God has reserved that for marriage or like how to protect my purity, like he
Yes.
genuinely didn't know. So I give him grace, but I did come to him and let him know that, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah. That's so good. It's so good because, like you said, I feel like some people, well, most people, if they're not in that same space, they won't know. Like, they're never going to be in the same space that you are, as far as like understanding wise. Like, there's a difference between, I was reading the a scripture today, but basically it was saying like, you have to know, believe, and understand God. So know, believing, and understanding are three completely different things. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I know Sanaya is trying to do this, but I don't really believe in that because it's not pertaining to me. So I can know that you're doing a certain thing, but if I don't really believe it in my heart, it's going to be hard for me to understand why you're doing it,
Mhm.
or why I have to do it, or why we're moving in this same, why we're moving it in this manner. So
Right.
it's crazy that you said that, but it also, because you said that, I held strong. And that how strong is you being obedient to God, like you said.
Mhm.
And it's like, I think you said something the other day. What you say, it ain't worth my soul. I
Yeah,
love that
it's really
because
not.
no, it's really not. Like how we idolize things, we don't realize how much of an idol people can be. We don't realize how much of an idol sex can be, and all these things, and what draws us away from God. We just think, okay, this pleases my flesh, this pleases people. And when I don't please people, when I don't please my flesh, I don't feel too good. But at the same
Mhm.
time, when do we actually get to a point where we say, oh, I please God and I feel great, because you don't really
Right.
push through the bad feelings of, okay, I can't please this, but you don't really get to the point of, when I get there and actually start pleasing God, everything else kind of falls into place. So yes, I think
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
so good. Um, so what I want to ask you.
Mhm.
So you say he wasn't in the same place, right? In the beginning, and then
Yeah.
y'all kind of adjusted, right? So do you
Yes.
feel like him just being who he is, like you know who he is, do you feel like if he had a responded in any other way and he didn't really respect the decision that you made, would you have made a decision to depart from him?
Yes, I would have.
Yes. The
And
honesty.
when, yeah, honestly, I would have. And I was looking at that question yesterday, and I had typed in there. I said without a doubt, but then I was like, nah, sis,
You
because
did give me some doubt.
I said nah, sis, because you
It'll
definitely
be
was
a
trying
doubt.
to. Yeah, I was trying to reason with it at first. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
like, all right, like he feeling like this. In his mind, he think God knows our hearts. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yes.
yeah. But then God was just telling me, nah, like that ain't, no. So I know for sure I would have, because if he didn't respect me, first, that's number one. I'm all about,
Mm-hmm.
respecting each other. If he didn't respect me, that would have been a red flag. Another red flag would have been, we're not on the same accord. I feel
Right.
one way, I feel like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to dishonor the Lord. That feeling still would have remained in me,
Mm-hmm.
and he would feel like, I don't. She's tripping. What is she talking about? What,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? The relationship, this and that, and I just believe I wouldn't, put myself with that, and I don't believe
Mm-hmm.
if he had that heart posture that God would want me to remain with him. So yeah, honestly, I would
That's
have had to make a tough decision. And I've been with him. We are high school sweethearts. I've been with him since I was in the ninth grade. And so I know that would have been tough, but I'm glad,
yeah.
that he was able to kind of see what I was saying and start searching the Lord for himself. So,
Mm.
yeah.
That's so good, because I feel like that's one of the hardest decisions that anybody can make. And it's not just with remaining abstinent, it's more so with anything that God tells us, you're going to have to depart from this if it's not of me. And when He actually reveals to us those things that don't, get with the program, like He's getting with the program from what I
Hmm.
see and from what I hear. But if they aren't to get with the program and God tells us, you're going to have to cut it loose, one of the biggest decisions that we ever have to make is, am I going to cut this off? Am I
Hmm.
going to cut him off and remain in the will of God under his ark of safety and all these things? Or am I going to remain disobedient?
Right.
And it feels like okay in the moment when you're pleasing your flesh, but at the same time, it's like, what bigger component are you giving up, or what bigger thing are you sacrificing? Like, people be out here living their life on earth and be like, okay, yeah, I'm living it up, but at the same time, it's like, after you die, like, bro, where you going? Where are
Exactly.
you going? But I feel like so many people don't really grasp that, and they feel like they don't care, but they
Hmm.
don't care until they actually,
Right.
until it's too late, kind of
Hmm.
thing. So I feel like I respect your decision so much, and I respect that you said that you respected yourself.
Hmm.
And a lot of us don't have respect for ourselves. I can be
Yeah.
real honest to say I did not have respect for myself when I was in high school because I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And there were times where me not being abstinent, I would allow other people to mishandle me, knowing I didn't even want to do it. It was more
Mhm.
so of me, okay, I can feel affection, I can feel love right now. Or I feel like this person likes me, I like them, they don't like me, they're just trying to get something from you. But at the same time, it's like, I don't even want to do
Mhm.
this, I don't even want to be here.
Right.
And I didn't respect myself enough to say, no, get up out of here because you don't even want me. But I love the fact that you said, first of all, he respected me.
Mhm.
And I feel like so many women need to grasp that. Like, respect yourself because God honors you so much, and your body is a temple. Respect your
Yeah.
body. And then when you get into marriage and y'all start whatever,
Mhm.
doing, well, you say worshiping in marriage.
Fulfilling the
We gotta
duty.
start, yeah, we gotta start worshiping, and all that stuff is really, it's so much greater because it's like new, and y'all are
Yeah.
learning each other in a different way.
Right.
Y'all are abstaining now, unmarried. It's like y'all get to learn each other in so many different capacities in
Yeah.
the mind part. And then when you get married, it's like, oh, I got something new to learn. But yeah, I just love it. Look at me. You like, what?
Being real.
But that's how it is. That's really how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it is. It
So
is.
I want to ask, right? So, what would you tell women, especially you young tonight? I'm older than you. I ain't gonna tell. Listen, I don't even want to know the age gap right now. But yo,
You think about
what would you
it.
tell? Oh, I did. What would you tell women, especially younger than you or your same age, right? Um, that are struggling with peer pressure or their own desires to have sex when God is telling them to do otherwise, or yeah, he tells us to do otherwise anyway. But what would you tell them that are really feeling pressured to do it? Like, how would they go about it?
So I would say read the word for yourself. I feel like there is nothing more powerful than you reading the word for yourself because you're gonna find everything you need the answer to. So that was me. Like I was running from it at first, and I had no knowledge. I didn't have resources because I was running from it. I didn't want to look it up. I didn't want to open my
Yeah,
Bible. So I when I started reading my Bible, I started saying, okay, this is God's will for me. He
yeah,
tells you his will for you. He also tells you how much he respects you, how much he loves you, how he created you,
hmm,
and he tells you your self worth. So it's like once you read that, it's like, oh, I'm over here tripping. I'm over here maybe having sex in places I'm not supposed to be. I'm over here
hmm,
letting my boyfriend or whoever, talk me into different things, or I don't know, just different things that don't show that self respect. And
yeah,
once God reminds you of that, it's like, wow, okay, like I need to tighten up because this is not okay. Um,
right,
Secondly, I would say ask God for godly community. Women who are seeking God just as you are and who can hold you accountable. I would
right,
really recommend someone who has overcome sexual sin, because sometimes
hmm,
if you get with people who I'm not gonna. Well, I would say maybe they dip in and dabbling. You could text them and be like, "Girl, I slipped up." They're like, "Girl, I did too." Well, it's like
Dang,
like
we
it's
can't both be.
yeah. We the
Yeah,
accountability. It has to be,
hmm,
I believe, a strong accountability. Not saying it can't work, but I recommend being under somebody who has overcome it. You know what I'm
right,
saying? They can tell you, okay, you can text them, "Girl, I'm facing temptation right now. I'm at this dude's house. What do you think I should do?" Your
hmm,
sister probably tell you, "Hey, girl, you might need to leave," or "Hey, y'all might want to start, praying," or you know what I'm saying? Just kind of
yeah,
help you out in that aspect. Um, Next thing I would say is to ask God to give you the desires of His heart over your life. So once you start wanting what God wants,
hmm,
those worldly things, be like, I'm not worried about that, or nah, I don't really want that. I ain't fooling with that
yes,
because I'm thinking on higher things, just as God wants me to. So I think definitely aligning up with His desires is
hmm,
the best thing ever, and He will give it to you. Like it's, I think the scripture says you don't have because you don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I think they just out here thinking, well, God is not helping me doing this. First of all, we got to make sure we're in His will. But second of all,
That's the one.
yeah, we got to make sure we're in His will,
Uh-huh.
because He ain't gonna do nothing, that He
You
said
don't
that He
need.
ever. Right? He's not gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like, you have to ask God to give you, the desires of His heart, and you will align with that.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said earlier, there's no sex that good in the world worth your soul. It's just not. I
Mm-mm.
get it, feel good. It's all I get it, but no, it ain't that good. Um,
Yeah.
God has so much planned for you, and He knows the desires of your heart. He knows what kind of husband you want and need. He
Mm-hmm.
knows that you want to enjoy your husband physically, mentally, spiritually. He knows what kind of father you like your husband to be. So He got you, girl. Like, He literally got you, but you got to be in His will. You can't
Yeah.
be doing all this different kind of stuff and expecting God to bless you. That's not even in His will. He's not
Mm-hmm.
going to do anything that'll go against what He already said. So I would, yeah, I'm gonna just leave that there. He knows you and He got you. You just
Yes.
have to get in alignment with Him and be obedient. I have seen so just much prosperity after becoming obedient, like actually
Mm-hmm.
walking, in the path that He wants me to walk in.
Right.
That's where I see the most results. If you're having trouble putting certain things down, those are probably the things hindering you in your growth. And
Mm-hmm.
those are probably holding you back, holding prayers back
Yes.
from being, put on you. Those are probably
Mm-hmm.
holding the not prayers, but holding the blessings. That's what's
Them
holding you.
prayers too.
So yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I would tell younger women or anybody struggling with peer pressure.
Yeah, that's good. And then I like that you said, um, like God knows what you want in all of these things. And sometimes it's He knows what you want, even though you don't know what you want.
Hmm.
Or it can be like you feel like you have this in this person, but at the same time, the pain can distract you from seeing
Girl.
the real person that like somebody is. Like you
Hmm.
could think this person is all good because you getting that
Right.
part, but it's like you missing a
Hmm.
whole different side of the person. That's another reason why he tells us like not to do it, because sometimes we don't even see majority of the person of who they really are because we are in a place of sexual sin. Like if y'all doing that all the time, how can you really know if this man is of integrity, or how can you really know if this man would be a good father to your children if y'all want to have children? Do you even know if the man want to have children?
Right. Right.
Like you have all these things that you should know, but if you're in a place where y'all are doing things out of God's will, you won't even, realize some things that you should have been realized. Your eyes won't be open to a space where they need to be open to because you're blinded in that area.
Hmm.
So I feel like that point of what you said, like God knows what you want. So he's telling us not to do it for a reason. Like there's a reason why he's telling you no. You're not
Right.
supposed to be doing that. And because first of all, that's what it is. That's what he said. You shouldn't be having a bunch of different soul ties with nobody else anyway, or whatever the
Exactly.
case may be. Or you don't know what they have going on in their life, and things
Hmm.
are I'm learning that
Right.
there's a whole another
Yeah.
spiritual realm when it comes with sex and things like that. But um, that advice was pristine, pristine. And then the whole obedience thing, when we're disobedient and we're not in the alignment of God, that hinders, you said, our blessings and your prayers. That can hinder your prayers too. Like sometimes we be praying and we like, why is it not happening? Because you're in
Hmm.
sin and you blinded in the
Yeah.
areas where God is saying, okay, I'm telling you to do something. Like some of your prayers have contingencies, or some of your prayers have, you got to do this before you do this. So if you read the Bible, it'll say, if you follow my commandments, then you'll have long life. So some of the
Exactly.
blessings that God is giving us is from mercy, just pure mercy. And because he's just a God of grace and he's a good God. And sometimes people praying for you and that's why you get the blessings. But some of
Hmm.
the blessings that your prayers have, it has, you got to do this before you do this. And if you're not pushing that person away in that area, or if you're not stopping your sexual sin, then you won't get your blessing. So it's like when you are in obedience, when you are in alignment with God, then you'll have all these
Exactly.
things. So that was
Exactly.
good.
That's good. That's good.
That was
Yeah,
it.
and yeah, that was really good. That puts things in perspective. And I will also say, to the women who may be thinking like, okay, I'm getting this conviction, or maybe I don't have this conviction, but I'm seeing in the word that it is not right. I I never challenge anybody to do this, but I challenge you to go tell your partner, "Hey, I want to abstain until marriage," or whatever the case may be, or put
Yeah.
certain boundaries in place, and that will tell you everything you need to know if that's your partner or not. That's going to tell you everything you need to know. If he respects you, okay, maybe that's your husband, but if he doesn't and he's going about it in a different way, and that might not be your husband. So I
Yeah.
challenge you to bring that to your partner and see what they say. Because once you take sex off the table, okay, then what? What do y'all have then?
Mhm.
What is y'all's foundation? What does y'all relationship look like? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, now that you said that, I'm like, so look, sometimes we try to justify sin. I'm not trying to justify nothing, but I'm
Mhm.
saying like, because some people would have that follow up question, like, how long would you give that person that didn't have the same conviction to come to your own understanding? Because dudes gonna flip. Anyway, if they flip in the
They
wrong
will.
manner, it's an instant, nah, get out of here. But sometimes, some people just, because I'm a thinker, like sometimes somebody can bring to me something and I'm just like, okay, let me think on it for a minute. And I'm not automatically snapping. It's just like, I just got to think about it. I got to consult, for me, I
Right.
got to consult with God about that. I got to do
Hmm.
whatever. But everybody thinks in their different capacities. They have to, register things or analyze things in their different ways. So if you go to your man, right, and you tell him that, and they give you a response where they have to think on it, I feel like how many women would be okay with them having to think on it?
You know what? I can only speak for me. I believe he didn't necessarily tell me, like, oh, I got to think about it. He just kind of was like, okay. He definitely probably thought a lot
Yeah.
about it.
Hmm.
But if he told me he would have had to think about it, I don't think I would be in a stance where I'm like, okay, like worrying, like, okay, I don't know what that
Yeah.
means. Like, what you mean you got to think about it? It should, you should
That's
know.
how,
Yeah.
and that's how sometimes we get,
Uh-huh.
what you mean? Why you gotta?
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
that's something you gotta think about sometimes, right? Because it's such a
It
heavy,
is.
what can I say? Not like it's a heavy decision for some people. It really
Yeah.
is. So some people, women too, like not even putting this from a place of women always have to be the one to tell the the
Right.
man. Be
Hmm.
just from experience and hearing a other story of men telling women that they're celibate. Women be flipping out too, and
Yeah,
they be
they
leaving.
do.
Like this generation has tried to flip flop with men, like women out here trying to be dudes and
Yes, they
whatnot.
have like a
Like
masculinity.
what? Yes, baby. What your soft era at? I mean,
You need to get healed and free. What's going
yeah.
on?
I mean, what in the world? But it's like, even from that standpoint, from a man telling his woman, like, you can't have this,
Yeah,
I can't get to
absolutely.
you. So
Hmm.
it's like, even the woman, whoever you telling, right, would you give them room and space? Because sometimes it's a heavy decision for them. But
Hmm.
I feel like all in all, like you said, the end decision should be, are you going to respect me in this? And if you're not,
Right.
then we just
Right.
probably ain't. Nah, you gotta go.
Yeah, I
You
don't
gotta
know.
go,
Maybe not
bucko.
this go round. Yep.
Nah, nah,
Yeah,
God,
I get
he
that.
ain't it for me, or she ain't it for me.
Yeah.
So saying it right, because you're doing it. So I want you to give, like, what are some ways that you and your partner have implemented and leaned on in your relationship that kind of help you maintain or remain abstinent?
Yeah, so we're still working on getting in alignment, but it's going great. I just want to put it
Hmm.
out there that we are still, working on it.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things is us reading the Word of God and standing on it. Like that's it. That's
Hmm.
it. That's all. God said what He said, and we need to be obeying. And I think the more you read, not even just about sexual sin, but other things in the Bible, and you just
Hmm.
see how much God cares for you, or you just develop that love for God. It's like I don't even want to hurt God. I don't want to hurt
Yeah.
His feelings. Like I don't. He knows what's best for me, so I'm not about to cross
Hmm.
Him. So I think standing on the Word is the best thing, and
Yeah.
this is important. Standing on the Word is important because we're all going to be tempted. So let's
Hmm.
let's put it in perspective, right, ladies? It's ovulation week. You feeling all good, you feeling bubbly, you clinging to your man this week more than any other week in the month. Let's say it's about 9:45 p.m., getting a little late. Probably should be headed home, but you're not. And you feeling a little something, these thoughts are just creeping into your mind. Oh, I know we're supposed to be abstaining and waiting for marriage, but I'm kind of feeling like, I don't know. Maybe
Hmm.
one time won't hurt. We can ask for forgiveness later. It ain't that big of a deal. First of all, no ma'am. Secondly, if your partner is not rooted in Jesus, the possibility of y'all falling into sin is extremely high.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to be on one accord, because when one is weak, the other can be strong. When
Hmm.
you're having those feelings, your man of God should not be reasoning with your feelings, and vice versa. And to those who may be wondering, what to do in those moments, that's the perfect time to just break out in prayer. It's the
Hmm.
perfect time to ask God to help y'all. Y'all, if y'all in the house, get outside, go on a walk, or start worshiping, start doing Bible study together. Like anything that you can do to flee, you know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
together, doing it together. There were a lot of times where I felt like I had to flee by myself. Like
Hmm.
I was just like, I'm sitting beside him. I'm like, hey. And he would be feeling some of the same things. And then he would start talking. He started talking crazy. And I was like, oh,
Uh,
okay. It's time to
hmm.
go home. It's okay. It's time to go home. And
Uh-huh.
of course we've grown, but there was just certain times where I had to flee by myself. If I
Yeah.
if I wasn't holding it down, who knows? You know what I'm
When it
saying?
got held down.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So that's why it's very important. And the last thing that we want to do is like bring sin to one another. I know I discussed in my Zoom call when I was talking about, abstaining. I went over Matthew 18 verse 6, and it says, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Meaning it would be better for you to be dead and gone
Hmm.
than for you to bring sin to the one of the Lord's children. You know what I'm saying? And once I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm tripping. Like
Yeah.
and actually I just came up on this verse actually a couple of weeks ago. But once I saw that, it just put things in perspective, not only for sexual sin, but just like gossiping or
Anything.
like
A
bringing
stumbling
having
block.
bitterness. Yeah, anything that was like a stumbling block. So I think about that and I'm like, man, God is saying it would be better for you to be dead than for you to mess with one of mine. And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, he ain't playing. I knew he wasn't playing. And so
Not at
I
all.
said, that's okay, God. I ain't gonna mess with none of your kids at all. I was like, that's okay. So I
Yeah.
think it's important to know that it's not okay to bring sin to your partner, and it's not okay for your partner to bring sin to you.
Yes.
And then I would say setting clear boundaries. I think boundaries has helped us a lot. So
Hmm.
like physical touching, kissing, our conversations, we kind of try to keep them as pure as possible. And I
Hmm.
know it's a little harder for him because he is a man. His hormones are a little bit different. His eyes a little bit different than mine. And me, I don't be doing that. Now look, my man, he big, he buff, he got some abs. And I be checking him out sometimes, but I make sure I'm kind of stay on track. Like,
Hmm.
okay, that's cute and all, but I'm gonna make sure I'm protecting his
Yeah.
purity. And so I would say, let me, I guess, kind of go into detail. So, like physical touching, he ain't, you know what I'm saying? He ain't touching none of this up here. He ain't touching none of that down there.
Hmm.
Even if he rubbing his hand to up for my thigh, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, sir, too much. You too high. Go down to the
Uh-huh.
kneecaps.
Right. Like, wait, with the
Yeah.
missionary skirt. Don't
Yep, exactly. I'm like, no
Oh.
sir, no sir. Or like, say like kissing and stuff. We don't make out. We may
Mhm.
get a few pecks in, but we don't, make out
Yeah.
because that just leads to other things. Next thing I'm know, I'm feeling hot. He feeling hot, and it's
Mhm.
like, nah, we
It's
ain't even
hard
have
to
to go that
cool
far.
down from there. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then our conversations, we don't send no spicy text messages. We don't
Mhm.
do, if we compliment each other, that's okay. I'm like, yeah, babe, look fine. I saw you on, whatever. But
Yeah.
we don't take it the extra mile and
Mhm.
say, like, I know some people, just from some things I see in the past, they'll be complimenting their partner, but then they start to go into other things. Like, ooh, I can't wait till I see you later. Or, ooh, I can't wait till
Like,
we,
bro,
what I'm
you know how to
like,
style. Just
yeah.
calm down, tiger. What?
Yeah, it's just like they taking it the extra mile, and it's like, nah,
Mhm.
like we don't gotta go over there. We need to be
Yeah.
respecting the Lord. So I would just say like setting those clear boundaries that has
Mhm.
really helped, because it's like, all right, like even with going over his place. I don't stay past 10:30 at that man's place. Now there's sometimes I may stay a little later, but it's probably like 11 or 11:30 or something like that, and I can,
Mhm.
we have self-control, so we can definitely control ourselves. But majority of the time I'm going home at a decent time, because even in me, I start having these thoughts. I'm like, all right, soon as 10 o'clock hit, my mind start tripping.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do nothing to bring sin to him. I'm not gonna do nothing to bring myself into sin. I'm just gonna get my stuff, leave. I'll see you next morning. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We also don't even do sleepovers. And I don't think it's a bad thing to do sleepovers, but you have to have very clear
Boundaries.
boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
y'all need to be sleeping in, two different rooms. Or if he's showering, okay, he need to get dressed, in the
Mhm.
shower, in the bathroom or whatever,
Yeah.
and just vice versa. Like, it needs to be very, distinct boundaries. So that's what I would, say we do to help us in this journey.
That was good. I feel like that's gonna help a lot of people, but I
I
think
hope
one of the
so.
things that all of it was good, but the things that you said, basically, sometimes you have to retreat by yourself,
Hmm.
and I feel like some people they would get upset by that. Like, why do I have to retreat by myself, or why am I the only one doing this? But
Hmm.
like you said, like when you're weak, he has to be stronger. When you're weak, vice versa.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people aren't in that headspace. You feel like sometimes both of you have to be strong, or you have to be strong together always. And it's not going to be like that because y'all are both human. So, like you
Hmm.
said, when y'all both are feeling like that, and sometimes he may have those thoughts like, "Oh God, he know my heart. It's okay. It's just
Hmm.
one time." You just like,
Hmm.
let me go be strong for the both of us out
Yeah.
here.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
kind of just
Yeah.
separate yourself from this situation. That's just like anything. And you said something about, the fleeing, right? Resist the
Hmm.
enemy and he'll flee from you. That's in the word too. So it's like, if I know for a fact, if I'm rooted in my word, just like you said, if I'm standing on scripture and knowing who God called me to be, what I'm supposed to do, and I have that fear of God, if you know who God
Yeah.
is, love, I ain't gonna play
Yeah.
with you no more. All right. Mm-mm. But when you have all of that, and you're rooted in your word, it's easier. It becomes easier to stand on him and to start quoting that scripture, this and this
Yeah.
and this and this, or, resist the enemy and he'll flee from you. And these promises of God, you promised me this. If I were to obey
Yeah.
you, Deuteronomy 28, the blessings of obedience, all these things, when you start, quoting those things
Hmm.
and coming to God in that manner, I feel like he sees you so much more
Yeah.
and he honors you so much more because yes, you have that temptation, but you were obedient in the
Hmm.
no, I'm not gonna go through with that.
Yeah.
And he blesses you with so much greater. Like if you are faithful in few things, he'll make you ruler over many. And that's one of the few things. Remaining abstinent is one of the few things that he really
Hmm.
sees and he really honors. And then when you're going into your marriage, I mean, I feel like, girl, your marriage is gonna be popping. I'm gonna just say that your marriage gonna be popping, girl. But uh, so you can get pressured with your relationship, just being within your relationship, do you ever get pressured at all from like outside sources? And then if
Mhm.
you do, like how do you silence those?
So honestly, I wouldn't say I don't really get pressured. Maybe I do, but I guess when I just think about it, I don't. Nothing really comes to mind. For
Mm,
him, I think it's a lot different. But
mhm.
I will say there are times when I see people living how they're living, and
Yeah.
their lives seem to be going so well, and I just have thoughts of like, is it really worth it? Like,
Mhm.
why does it seem like they're so blessed and everything's going so good while they're in sin and I'm over here remaining pure? You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? Or if my partner and I share our journey with someone, they'll be like, so y'all don't do this? Y'all don't do that? That's boring. Couldn't be me.
Oh.
And it just, yeah. And sometimes it makes me feel like not embarrassed because I'm most certainly not ashamed at all.
Mhm.
But it makes me think like, okay, does my partner think like that? Like we're
Mhm.
boring and we don't really, I just don't want him to feel like that. I want us to be on the
Yeah.
same accord because if we're on the same accord, nobody else, opinion really matter. I
Period.
don't,
Mhm.
really care about that. So I would just say it's just like those thoughts sometimes, like hearing people's responses, like, "Oh, you doing what? Oh, y'all waiting
Mhm.
for? I couldn't do that. I don't see how y'all do that." Even
Yeah, that's
even
why
looking
you
at
not.
TikTok comments, exactly, and
Mhm.
even looking at comments on the internet of other people sharing, that they're
Yeah.
abstaining. People in the comments were like, "Couldn't be me. I ain't doing that," and stuff like that. And it's just like it's just crazy. But like you said, I believe my marriage will be blessed as well. And I was
Mhm.
telling him in the beginning, I was like, "Look, we're gonna be good. The stuff that we probably, if we kept fornicating and say we got married, the stuff that, probably would have happened, probably not even gonna happen no more." I was
Mhm.
like, our kids are gonna be blessed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I'm like, we're gonna be good. And we also can, enjoy making love to each other in the way that God intends for us.
Mhm.
Because I know what we have a lot of misconceptions of what sex is. A lot of
Mhm.
people think sex is to please yourself, men getting off, and
Mhm.
all of that. And the Bible says it's for the husband to please his wife and for the wife to please her husband.
Yep.
And so I think when you look at it in those ways, and also when you are in a place where God formed you to like be in total submission to your husband, it's
Mhm.
even better. Like it when stuff just lined up just how God put in his will. You know what I'm saying? Like everything
Yes.
just flows. So I'll be trying to tell like I was trying to tell him in the beginning, I'm like, look, we're gonna be good. We might gotta wait and sacrifice right now, but I'll do that. I'll wait and sacrifice right now for us to have the next 50, 60
Girl, yes.
years good in our, marriage. So I was like, I'm good.
Mhm.
These 2, 3, I ain't worried about no 2, 3. I'm good. I'm
Right.
like, so I'm like, if we got to sacrifice
It's a
now
hint,
for
hint.
better in the
You
future,
say, "Ain't
yeah.
worried about these 2, 3 years." Mm-mm. Whatever
Yeah.
you got.
See, I slipped that in there
Uh-huh.
again. but
I got
yeah, it's just like, but yeah, it's just like we're gonna be good. Like you can sacrifice,
yeah.
and I think people think that this is so hard to do. Like I ain't gonna be able to do that. We can do this. Like
I
that's a
know.
lie of the enemy. He tries to make
Mhm.
you think you can't do this. You can't go this long, or you need to be with somebody. You need to feel that love, and those are all lies. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like those are literally all lies. All those
Mhm.
voids that the enemy tries to come in and fill with just even different things, not even just fornication. Those are valid voids, but we fill them with the wrong things.
Yes.
We
Uh-huh.
we fill them with like crazy worldly things and they're valid, but we need to be filling them with Christ. We need to be filling
Right.
it with God, and then we will really be fulfilled. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's
I
just it
love
for
that.
that.
I love that. And that you what you say that sometimes we have such a skewed perspective or vision of what sex even is. Like
Hmm.
it's a whole lot of people out here looking at pornography and thinking that's what sex is,
Exactly.
or like you said, dudes out here or even women out here just thinking, okay, sex is just for me to get off. And it's like, no.
Hmm.
Like why would you
Right.
I don't see how that's enjoyable. Probably because I just been on the other side. It's not enjoyable.
Right.
No, and then just
Right.
be also being on the other side of having sex before marriage, before my husband. It's like because I had sex even before my husband, right? I didn't I did not enjoy it because it was from that skewed vision. Like, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna get off. And I'm just like, bro, why the freak am I here?
Right.
Why am I doing this? And then I get up with so much shame. Look, I say I get up. I was in it,
Mm-hmm.
feeling so much shame and so much weight and so much conviction. Like, what are you doing here right now?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not enjoyable. You don't like it. It's
Yeah.
not pleasing. So why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's when you get into marriage, when you're doing that before, just for me, I'm gonna speak for myself. Maybe somebody else can relate, but it took me so long to get to a place where sex was even enjoyable for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, in that manner, where I didn't feel conviction after. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was married, sometimes still like, oh shoot. It's like, girl, get
Yeah.
up from here. Like, what are you doing? Why are you feeling that conviction when you got a whole ring on your finger? You
Right.
married. It's cool now.
Yeah.
But because I did it before, right? I felt so much weight of shame. Like it took me so long to say, okay, God is actually honoring this. This is an okay thing to do with your husband. Like, stop feeling that. And then it
Mm-hmm.
took me so long to come up out of my shell in that realm
Mm-hmm.
where my husband was like, what's going on
Yeah.
in that space? And that's a hard place to be in marriage where you're not really open in
Mm-hmm.
the place of worshiping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you just don't know how. I never
Yeah.
knew how in that manner. I never knew how to actually love in that manner because I was always mishandled in that realm, right? So it's like abstaining from sex and you learning your fiance, your husband, your boyfriend in that manner before he knows everything about you.
Yeah.
And when you get into that space where you're married and you're going into worship, right? He's learning you in all these different ways where it's not like, I'm not pleasing myself, I'm pleasing her. So it's giving you different avenues to learn her. It's giving you different avenues to love him and actually coming together. We're in a space where you're not remaining abstinent in your not marriedness and you feel like you know her, but you really don't. And those different levels where you can build in your marriage, it's like I don't even know her. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I don't
Yeah.
even know him because you
Yeah.
thought you did when you were close, when you weren't
Mm-hmm.
married, but you weren't really close at all. Y'all were just
Right.
close in body, but y'all weren't close anywhere else. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's so important. And it's so good that you're starting now with abstinence and really holding on and being obedient to God, where He's saying, no, because I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
take you to a whole new level when you're actually married. Because right now I'm getting you to learn each other and I'm getting you guys married to me. Like, that's the foundation of marriage anyway. Like,
Yeah.
you and your partner, when y'all hook together and y'all are looking to God for everything, my,
Exactly.
that's a powerful
Exactly.
thing. And I feel like it's so good. Like, me and my husband now, we look to God. Like me, I'm just like I don't care about nothing else. I will
Mm-hmm.
make sure my relationship with God is right first, because when your relationship with God is right first, everything just starts to fall into place. And my husband wasn't even on that level yet, but as he saw me kind of grow in Christ, he started growing in Christ. And now that we're looking to God for everything, girl, I can't even explain how good it
Mm-hmm.
is. that that and other things. Look, let me get my mind out of. All right, but I'm just saying, like, that closeness and that
Mm-hmm.
intimacy between husband and wife,
Mm-hmm.
that's so good.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to fill that void when you're not married,
Mm-hmm. Ain't gonna
girl,
work.
let me go ahead
Ain't gonna work out for you.
and get up there. Okay, I got one last question for you. And I feel like you already answered it, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway. So, do you have a timeline in mind where you want God to act upon making you and your partner one, or in that? Because I feel like you already answered it because you said 2 3 years, but it may be something different. Or how do you remind yourself of, like, just focusing on that to just kind of remain patient and trusting while you wait with your timeline.
Right. So I don't necessarily have a timeline because I'm honestly just waiting on God and I'm not making any
Okay.
sudden moves. Um, he already done popped me a few times for being
Hey.
impatient. So I was like, I ain't even gonna mess with you no more. You said go,
Uh-huh.
oh now? Okay, okay, I'm gonna go now. You said stop,
Mhm.
I'm like this. I'm like, I ain't gonna mess with you
No, for real.
no
Don't
more.
even play with him. Uh-huh.
Yes, but he is still very much shaping me and my boyfriend for marriage, and I'm completely okay with that. But I do have thoughts of us getting married after I finish school because I'm in
Mhm.
college. I graduate in 2027, so we'd have 2 more years
Yes.
to go. But you never know what God is going to do, how He's going to work things out.
Right.
It could be sooner, it could be later. I don't know. For me, I can honestly say I love God and I love His Son and they're
Mhm.
both worth waiting for. So I honor them, and staying in communication with God is really how I remain patient and trusting in His promises because He's always reminding me. Like there's
Yes.
going to be rewards for that. Like there's going to be your life going to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like he
Mhm.
promises so many things, and it's like, man, I'm going through with it. I'm trusting Him. Like I'm putting all of this in Him, and like I said before, I don't
Mhm.
want to hurt His feelings. And then I don't want to, I guess, like break the, I'm not gonna say break the silence, but like break the whole, abstaining thing. And then I feel all this shame and guilt. And it's just
Yes.
like, nah, like you were just in a
You done
good
been going this
space.
long?
Yeah. It's like you were just in a good space. Don't look, if you're thinking about going that route, don't do that. If you've been abstaining, keep
Mhm.
abstaining because
Yeah.
it's gonna get easier. Like, well, I guess you can kind of say sometimes it gets harder and sometimes it gets easier, but you're
Mhm.
gonna make it and you're gonna be okay. And it's just not, worth, breaking it and feeling that guilt. Then you got a whole nother thing, going on. And it's like, you
Mhm.
don't got time for the spiritual warfare. You don't even have to do that. So
Yes.
yeah, I definitely see us getting married soon because I know I'm gonna be a young wife. Everybody like, why you want to get married young? You too young. Da, da, da. I'm
Yeah, I
like,
loved it.
the
I
Lord,
love it.
exactly. I'm like, the Lord honors young marriages. I'm like, do y'all not
Mhm.
know that? I'm like, we like to idolize all these different things. Oh, well, we need to get this house first. We need to get this money right. And we're putting off maybe what God told us. God already told us
Mhm.
get married, but we putting it off, which is disobedience. And we're saying,
Yeah.
okay, we need to wait for this. We need to wait for that. And then you're taking opinions from other people telling you you're too young. Y'all need to wait. Y'all need to go explore more people before y'all make that decision. That is the dumbest thing. Don't let
Mhm.
nobody ever tell you need to
Girl, that be the
explore
one.
more men.
What?
Yeah. You know how many times I heard that? That's
Mhm.
crazy. And it's like, what do you mean I need to explore other men? That's not what God told me I need to do.
Exactly.
So I
Go ahead
don't
and
need
catch
to
all
do
them soul ties,
that.
sis. Go ahead and just say that.
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. That I'm like, yeah. So don't listen to that. You need to listen to what God says about marriage. Don't let people
Mhm.
tell you you're too young. You may be young in this society. That doesn't mean that you're not ready for marriage. If that's what
Mhm.
God has for you at the time. That's not what that
Yeah.
means. If he called you to it, he's gonna lead you through it. So
Right.
yeah, that's my spiel. Definitely want to get married.
Well, I'm so
Yes.
glad. So glad we had this conversation because I feel like it's so needed. Not just within like your age or younger, like high school years. It's like some 4-year-old virgins out here. It is, and it's so good.
Yes.
Or just some people that are really embarking on their journey with Christ and they're, single and just trying to do it and they're, just coming into Christ and saying, okay, I'm going to do it right this time. And they need that
Hmm.
encouragement and they just don't know who to talk to or whatever the case may be. So community is so important. You mentioned that earlier, to get around women that are like-minded and women that are strong in their faith, that's not going to tell you wrong. Say, no, go ahead, God knows your heart. No,
Hmm.
boo,
Right.
no, run. Go stay house away with your hot self. What in the world? But is, I think one of the things that really resounded with me in my faith journey, I've been watching Tiffany Montgomery, but one of the things that I really like that she does, she says, write yourself a congratulations letter. So one of the things that she says basically for your congratulations, like if your goal is to be married, go ahead and write yourself a congratulations letter to, say how glad you feel in that moment, or just plan out your whole wedding in that letter. Like, what kind of dress are you going to be? What's your color dress? Like, who are your bridesmaids? Like,
Yes.
all of these things, like planning it out. And then on that day of your wedding, when God gives you that promise, you go back and look and say, oh my God,
Yeah.
look what he did for me, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I feel like that even puts more perspective on your promise and just gives you that expectation of, I know God is going to do this for me, because that's a promise of God. He loves marriage. And if you have it on your heart to get married, it's because you are meant to marry. Like, God ain't out here telling you to be single and go bang down
Right.
everybody you see just because
Right.
you can. He's literally saying, I'm a covenant keeping God. I honor marriage. He put Adam and Eve together for a reason. Like,
Hmm.
and he calls himself the bridegroom and we are the bride. Like, it can't get no clearer than that.
Right.
So he's such a God that loves covenant and loves marriage. So he's saying, don't do that before you get married.
Hmm.
It's
Yes.
for a good reason. So I'm just so glad that you are honoring that and being obedient in your journey of remaining abstinent, and then getting on platforms like this and being vulnerable and sharing your story so other people can come out and say, hey, I'm struggling. Like, it's okay to say I'm struggling. It's okay to
Right.
say I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to handle that. And like you said, some people will look at you like, oh, you boring, but at the same time, you're not in my relationship. My man is okay.
Right. Exactly. For real.
And it don't matter what you think. We over
Right.
here good. It don't matter your
Hmm.
opinion. But
Exactly. And I think that's real quick. I think that's how the enemy tries to slip in through other
hmm
people. It's like, you ain't tired of that. That it just them little slick comments and
yeah.
try to plant seeds to get your mind to start going
hmm
different places. So it's definitely important. Be careful who you talking to and how much you
Yes.
talking to them, and what you allow them to say to you or say about your relationship. Definitely
hmm
protect your relationship.
Right.
Yes,
Don't be
yes.
listening to that. You have to really protect your mind and protect your space, because all of that is so necessary, and you remaining obedient. Like, it's not even just from a place of abstinence. It's like, if I'm not supposed to be doing this, I'm not even going to place myself
Uh-oh.
in the area of temptation to follow none of that. So, you go.
Okay, I'm
you
sorry.
froze.
Yeah, it
You
went
froze for
out.
a little bit.
Enemy must be
It's okay.
mad.
Because you said that, girl, man. What you mean? I said what I said.
Yup. Hmm.
But I was just saying, like, I really appreciate this conversation because it's so needed in all aspects, not even just abstinence, but in the realm of obedience. Oh, I do. You said you have a group me, and then give me
Yes.
your IG tag one more time.
Okay, so for Sisters of Faith, it's at Sisters of Faith Daily on Instagram. And you can just look up Sisters of Faith Daily on Facebook as well. And then on Instagram for my influencer page, it's at underscore self care bay.
Yes. So if y'all don't have a community, the Sisters of Faith community is so good. I think she just started a couple months ago, but it is so full of insight and encouragement and love on a daily, y'all. So follow that page, and then follow her Self Care Bay page as well. Until next time, y'all.
Bye.